That's why I think it's highly undemocratic of folks to be like, don't critique my candidate. You're going to ruin their chances to get elected. Damn, bitch, the whole campaign falls apart if I fucking complain. What? People don't realize that it is a slippery slope. One day you are dissatisfied with the Democrats, rightfully so. And the next day you're like, yeah, all these migrants are spilling over the border. Whoa. Whoa. What's up, family? Welcome back to another episode of Look at the Material podcast. I'm your host, BK, and I'm here with Grace. So this is my good friend, y'all. We've been friends for a couple years now, and a couple days ago, or maybe a week ago in particular, I saw that she was talking about the decline of streetwear on the shelves when it comes to fashion in lieu of more conservative brands or minimalistic brands or even brands that feature the flag. I just kind of wanted to bring her here to speak about how fashion trends kind of give us a clue on the state of the culture. And as someone who's in fashion herself, I kind of want her to speak to what she sees going on in regards to trends. And so, Grace, welcome. As an artist, as a fashionista, as someone that works in fashion and tells stories through fashion and pays attention to the trends, what are you seeing in regards to streetwear, and what do you think this can tell us about the direction our culture is going?
Thanks for having me, BK. So good to see you, friend. So I had seen an article that come out by a luxury resale brand talking about like the new trends that were coming in. And one of the sections was about how streetwear is out, or there's more of a decline, not necessarily out, but there's a large decline. Supreme was down 25%. Off-White was down 34%, and Nike Jordan was down 35%. So to me, as someone who does like streetwear, and I would say like my style is a mix of streetwear and other things, it was a little interesting and alarming, especially this being like election year. But I think we've seen it over the past couple of years, right? Like even things with quiet luxury, the clean girl aesthetic being popular. When you think like clean girl or quiet luxury, think like Sophia, what's her name? Richie? Lionel Richie's daughter.
And like Alex Earl and like girls like that. Yeah.
I feel like over the past like year and a half, that's been not a concerted effort, but you can see the switch. You can see the change. And to me, I think fashion always is going to tell the time. I think fashion is always going to, just like any other art form, fashion is going to tell you what's going on because of maybe how people are able to buy, maybe how people are looking at the world and how they're seeing themselves in the world. So for me, this like communicates something that says, okay, we're going to move a little bit more towards the middle. Maybe it's because people are feeling a little bit afraid to be a little bit more streetwear and a little bit more free and a little bit more fun because of the times, because of people are losing their job. People are losing their jobs. I think that communicates a lot. I think people, whenever things kind of switch and form in that way that it may be a little bit more drastic, people kind of move a little bit towards the middle and a little bit more towards conservatism, to be honest, because that's a little bit more maybe safer. Maybe they feel more safe. And I think it communicates a lot within fashion to me.
I knew when clean girl aesthetic, which already I'm like, clean girl? What are we even? We're using puritanical language. What does a dirty girl look like? Seriously and hypothetically. And when you look at the aesthetic, it's blonde girls with a slick back bun, minimalistic jewelry. And that is to put something that is more ornate or more maximalist in opposition to that by saying, we're doing away from the long, gaudy nails and the colored hair and the chunky jeans and the bold stitching. And I've seen people kind of say, like Kaiser, who was Angel Reese's teammate on the Chicago Sky, she calls it growing into her womanhood when she dissolved her fillers and took her lashes off and started wearing her natural hair. And so, yeah, it's not even just fashion, it's beauty and media and music that's kind of making this shift to the center. And I would say to the right. I think we've had conversations like this, particularly with this goddamn American flag. And on that note, I definitely want to transition to talking about Cowboy Carter. And we had so many conversations about this album and the imagery around the album when it dropped in March. And when I saw your close friend story about, streetwear being on the decline, and I'm reading articles and watching video essays about hip hop being on the decline, it made me think of our conversations that we've had about Cowboy Carter and how it's listed as a country album. And I understand that genres can be blended and whatever the case may be, boxes are usually put around particularly Black artists, but this was a country album. I want to talk about kind of the fashion choices or the aesthetic choices around Cowboy Carter, starting off with this platinum ass blonde hair, and the American flag.
So I'm also a photographer. So the choice to have the American flag kind of in the corner, but like cut off, I think gave a lot of room for people to kind of choose for themselves and choose for her what she was going to communicate later. I think that was on purpose. The platinum blonde was a choice, a concerted effort, because you can have a country album with honey blonde hair. So for her to choose platinum blonde, closer to platinum blonde white country singers that we've seen before, is a choice. The platinum blonde also makes her look a little bit more lighter tone than what she usually is. A choice. I think even that choice to be stood up straight on the horse in what she was wearing was communicating something to us. It was communicating, this is America. And this is America. And I want to come out and I want to say something as a Black person in America. But to me, it fell flat because it's like, what are you exactly trying to say? Because to me, it communicated, I want to be as close to white country music as possible. And Black Southern country music is nice. And I'm going to add the little elements in there for y'all to feel a certain way, for y'all to feel like, yes, we're reclaiming something. But to me, the imagery did not say that at all. It didn't.
People were saying, oh, you guys are writing think pieces about cover art. And it's like, yes, because art, even in cover art, communicates something. Imagery communicates something. My background is in political science. And when I saw that, I saw the hundreds of images I've seen of like our colonial forefathers. But it's okay for you to theorize that it's cut off because she's saying fuck America. But it's not okay for me to theorize that this composition is supposed to look close to a Eurocentric standard.
I think that people will go with whatever their fave is going to go with, right? And like they're going to try to make it something.
We talk about this all the time, that fans project a lot onto Beyonce. What do you think about the Southern fans in particular that projected a lot of meaning onto this imagery surrounding the album?
I think it's disingenuous, like, first of all. Like, I think it's really disingenuous to tell, like, other Southern Black folks that what we're saying isn't real and what we're saying isn't true. I think there was a lot of conversations about how if you're not Black and from the South, you can't say anything, as if the critiques didn't matter, as if you and I, who have Black Southerners, couldn't have a critique because it came up against what she was trying to push. I think the allegiance is weird. And had she had the Black flag, the red, green, black, people would have went with that too. She's an artist. Her team is big. They know what they're doing. And I think for people to try and say like, hey, like, no, like she's trying to reclaim something. It's like, what are y'all seeing? What are y'all seeing? And I think that a lot of fans projected what they wanted because they were trying to protect her in some type of way, but it just does not read as something that is supposed to be for Black Southern country music.
We also had Dolly Parton and Willie Nelson and fucking Post Malone, the culture vulture Post Malone. I also think about the timing of it all. This album came out in March, and this was, I believe, after Beehive for Palestine came out and was like, can you not show your film in Israel? And this was only a couple months after the October 7th attack led to this escalation in the occupation and the genocide. And so the timing of like brandishing an American flag was just, I think, really jarring. And I think to your point, fans would have found meaning either way, but I think that it would have been a better statement to actually put the Black liberation flag on there. Or if you wanted to use red, white, and blue, even our Juneteenth flag has red, white, and blue, but it's to resemble certain things. Those colors have meanings. But instead, we have you wearing a red, white, and blue do-rag with a Black power fist ring.
Which is crazy work. Like, we could just sit on that for a second, because that's crazy work. I think the album also like kind of falls flat. Like, at the end of the day, it wasn't really like true to what she was trying to say, because of all of the different things that are communicated. I think Teen Noir has a really good video about like just Cowboy Carter in general as well. And just about like, we can't deny the fact that like there were a lot of elements in this album that were missing, as if you want to talk about Black Southern country music.
And like, I don't want to discount the potential good that that exposure had in general for like Black people in regards to country. I don't think it's binary in that it did everything or it did nothing, and I don't even think that's what we're saying here. I feel tired of people playing in my face a little bit and telling me that like this stream of piss is rain, and that brandishing the American flag is somehow revolutionary or somehow paints this picture of Black people reclaiming fucking America. Like, that is just, if that is where the imagination is, even in a creative space, I don't want to be in that imagination. And I think that it was a little bit more strategic on Beyonce's part and her team's part. I think they looked down the street and around the corner and said, okay, hip hop's on the decline, R&B's on the decline, pop and country is coming up. Let's do a country album. Let's try to sweep the CMAs. Cowboy Carter got no CMAs, and there were no CMA nominations. People were saying, well, that's the point. Like, that the point of the album is like for her to say fuck you to the CMAs and fuck you to the racist people that shat on her when she performed with the Dixie Chicks. And then there's another camp that's like, no, I think it just shows that it doesn't matter how much you try to prove yourself to these white institutions, they're not going to respect you. They're not going to award you. And it kind of invalidates, in my opinion, the Black excellence crew, and Jay-Z even getting up on that Grammy stage and saying Beyonce has the most Grammys than anybody, I think even Michael Jackson, and has never won Album of the Year, which I want to be clear and say, I think that's egregious. I think that she should have won it a long time ago. And the Academy has a history of doing shit like this. Then in his speech, he says, that's okay. We just have to keep proving to them. Like, we have to keep proving that we're great and excellent so that they can't ignore us. And that is what gives it away to me, that I'm like, I think she wanted to sweep the CMAs. Like, I think she wanted hella nominations.
100%. I think that it was just so interesting too, because like watching Jay-Z talk about it up on stage, and then like them panning to her and her being like, now don't give it away now, like, don't give it away, that this is what we really want, that this is actually, we want to be a part of this conversation. We want to be in these white spaces. We want to have the Black excellence. We want to be noticed for our contributions to music. And nothing is wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. Nothing is wrong with wanting to be, noticed for your contribution. But it comes to a point where it's like, how much are y'all going to fight for trying to be noticed, instead of just being like, I'm good with being here with where my folks are at. I'm good with being right here because I know that I'm valued. I know that my music transcends time. Her music transcends time. I don't think it communicates anything other than we want to be a part of this institution.
Agreed. And I think that even the merch that came out for Cowboy Carter underscored that. Like, I'm like, you guys are not going to convince me that fucking red, white, and blue in this fashion is making any other statement other than fucking patriotism. And that is like what I think I get so afraid and kind of like frustrated with, is that I see Black people embracing patriotism and nationalism. And like, I think when you look at pop culture and you look out and you see Jay-Z's over the Super Bowl, Kendrick's headlining the Super Bowl next, Beyonce just did a red, white, and blue Cowboy Carter thing. We've got American flags back into fashion. This is all interconnected with this right wing shift that we're making as a culture. And y'all are not going to tell me that Beyonce is making liberatory work by donning the American flag. Fuck it. Like, you're just not going to do that.
You saw Kendrick Lamar literally right up against an American flag.
A huge American flag, giving us Americana core.
I was like, oh. So y'all got, this is a concerted effort now. You know what I mean? Like, this is a concerted effort to reclaim something. I don't even know why we need to reclaim anything. Why do we need to reclaim what America means to us? Why? You know, and I think like that's part of that like whole like we want to be a part of this big capitalist conglomerate. We want to be a part of that because we want a piece of the pie, really.
I think that's what it is. It's like we're now seeing these people say, well, look, we have Black people in these spaces. We have a Black man that is curating the halftime show. We're having a Blacks at the White House brunch. So we have to be making progress somewhere. And it's just, no, I think y'all want to hold the whip. I mean, it kind of goes to show like Ice Cube and Lil Wayne and Kodak Black and all these like, and Killer fucking Mike, Mr. Kill Your Masters, okay, shaking hands with Brian Kemp and shit. This movement of, I want to own $1 billion too. I want a path to exploit people too. Like, white people get to do it. Why can't we do it? Why can't we sweep at the Grammys and the CMAs? And why can't we have, exploit? That is not liberatory, period. And I'm tired of the Black excellence camp trying to sell that to us. Like, none of that means anything to me. Y'all are trying to be the Black version of the establishment. And I think as like Black leftists push up against that and speak out against that, you see more of a clash than collaboration or conversation. I'm just frustrated. And I think we've settled for conservatism. I think we've settled for getting into the establishment. And I don't like it.
I don't like it either. I think it's like, again, I love using the word disingenuous because that's how I genuinely feel. I feel like a lot of the conversations that are happening around the election, I think a lot of the conversations that even happen around fashion, Cowboy Carter, music, whatever, you name it, are really disingenuous or not, and are being really obtuse to what Black leftists are saying. On purpose, being obtuse, obviously on purpose. Maybe they don't want to, whoever doesn't want to admit the fact that like, you also possibly want to be a part of this conservatism and this right-wing thinking because you feel as though it's going to get you closer to where you want to be. And like, that's okay to say, right? Like we talk about that too. Like you can say that out loud. You can say it out loud. And then maybe we'll get somewhere real. Like maybe we'll have some real conversations about where we are, where you are, where I'm at, because I want to be in community with people. Now, I don't want to be in community with everybody, but I want to be in community with people who do want to push forward and learn and have the hard conversations. But it seems as though it's like if a Black leftist says something that pushes up against that, it's like, no, you can't say too much because then you're going to ruin what I have. Not realizing that maybe some of the stuff I have too, maybe it could help the both of us.
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, to your point that you even mentioned on another legendary rant on your close friends was, if I didn't complain, the shit wouldn't have got fixed when you were talking about the situation at your apartment. And
yes,
that was such a great point. And it reminds me of like the importance of gossip, of complaining, not like salaciousness, but the importance of chatting within your community about shit that pisses you off. That's why I think it's highly undemocratic of folks to be like, don't critique my candidate. You're going to ruin their chances to get elected. Damn, bitch, the whole campaign falls apart if I fucking complain. What?
Like if I get up and I say like, no, she's lying right now. Like she's lying right now and I know it. Like, so I threw the election?
That's and not the person, not the public servant that's running for office, not the public servant that has to appease and win over a constituency, the complainer, the critiquer. I'm the one that blew up her chances. Guys, we've gotten to a point where we're berating people like a Chappell Roan that's like, I'm voting for Kamala, but both sides have problems because we're not professing our undying support. Y'all, this is conservative thinking, MAGA thinking, cult-like thinking. And I think it's important that we have conversation like this more, because I don't think some people even realize that they're adopting right-wing framework.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't think people are realizing that when they had raised that $8 million in 24 hours, how there was no policy laid out, there was no nothing laid out, we didn't even really know if she was really running for real. We didn't know if she was really running for real. And there was $8 million up for her, 24 hours. That is cult-like thinking. Just because she looks a little bit more like you, or she speaks a little bit more like you because she has certain letters on like you. I'm sorry. It's not right. It's not right. And like you said, I don't think people are understanding that this is actually what they're falling into. But I think it is such a slippery slope too, right? Like if you are not actively trying to challenge your mind, you will go down that path easily.
Like, I think that's a great point, and why I have found, I guess, the strength inside of me to keep making videos, to keep making Instagram stories, to keep talking to my neighbors and friends that maybe disagree with me or whatever. People don't realize that it is a slippery slope. One day you are dissatisfied with the Democrats, rightfully so, and the next day you're like, yeah, all these migrants are spilling over the border. Whoa. Whoa. It used to even be, we'll push him to the left. Now, 4 years later, it's like, fuck it. Whoever gets up there, we're fucking voting. That's unacceptable to me.
That's unacceptable.
That's unacceptable to me because they're actually adopting right-wing policies. There's a lot of bipartisanship going on right now, and people seem to be okay with it. And I do want to point out, it is a privilege to research and read and chat and consume this content. And that's why we have to talk outside of our bubbles. But there's clearly a divide between, we'll just say, Black liberals or Black people invested in the status quo and Black leftists or Black people that are not invested in the status quo. How do we get these two factions speaking in good faith so that we can actually become aware to the fact that we're falling for literally like Hitlerian talking points?
Yeah.
What do you think?
This may be like a little woo-woo, but like literally being honest with yourself first. You have to be honest with yourself about why you're thinking the things you're thinking and why you are going towards the things you're going towards. To be honest, that's how I started. Really looking at myself and being like, well, does this thing really make sense? Like, is this really benefiting anybody outside of myself? Is this really benefiting the people that are around me? Is this benefiting my mama, my daddy? Is this benefiting my friend? I think that's a good place to start, to having good faith conversations. I think you have to have good faith conversations with yourself about how you actually move throughout the world.
That's so good, especially because of this misinformation era we're in. Chappell actually mentioned this in her video where she was like, I think you should question your feed. I think you should question what you see and read and just do some critical thinking and like just some cursory research on something that you see before you just run with it. And something that I'm learning as I go through school is that you'll realize how much social conditioning has a role in what you think and believe. And how if you were to just step back and be like, why do I think this way? You would find that you don't really think that way, or you might think a different way. So I think that's I don't think that's too woo-woo at all. I think that's a great reflection. And
yeah, how do you see this thing? How do you see the sky? What is your perspective?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, like even to your point with Chappell Roan, like why were people so hung up over the fact that she wasn't giving her like pledge of allegiance? Why do we have to do that?
It's kind of like, why are we pledging our allegiance to anything other than fucking humanity? Like, y'all want her to get on her knees for a genocide heir. Like, I understand that Trump is a present threat, but that does not neutralize or erase the threat that neoliberalism poses through continuing to send arms while saying the word ceasefire. Saying the word ceasefire doesn't do shit. if you're just going to keep sending the fucking fire. So like, to your point, people don't want to be faced with the fact that they themselves have said genocide is cool with me. And so I think that it should be cool for the next person to just say, okay, well, let's put the Middle East to the side and focus on a domestic issue. I'm like, Dallas County sends $19 million a fucking year to Israel. This is a domestic issue while people sleep on the city hall steps because they're unhoused. So, I mean,
again, back to the complaining, like whenever you complain, it's like it's a problem, but this is my everyday life. We gotta get somewhere. We got to keep talking about it. We got to keep having these conversations. We have to, unless we're just going to keep sinking and sinking and sinking.
And I think like, I just want to leave with Black people. It is true that people did die for us to be considered human and to participate in the electoral system. That is one way that you can participate and secure short-term goals. It is one way. Voting locally, voting statewide. These things have long-term implications that you should vote for. But it is one way out of tons of ways, dozens of ways that you can be involved in your community and making the world around you a better place. I just want to say that I would never be, if you choose to vote, I would never be against that. I'm a proponent of that. But us thinking that all of our power is concentrated at the ballot box and nothing else, that is a falsehood. And I need us to expand our imagination and dream about ways that we can secure our future and our fucking survival outside of the voting booth.
Right. Because it can't be the only way. It can't be that we're only engaged every 4 years. It can't be that we're only engaged in our community only 4 years. So I'm glad that you said that. And I'm so appreciative of people like you.
Well, I'm so glad that like you sat and chatted with me today. And we have these conversations all the time. And I just thought it would be important for other people that may have questions about the rise of conservatism or are feeling this thing happen and don't know how to express it or don't have the language to express like what they're feeling and what they're seeing. So I hope that you guys learned a lot from this conversation. This is how we chat shit all the time. And I think that it's important to chat with your friends and family like this and just ask like, what do you think about this? And have good faith conversations. Genuinely try to have good faith conversations and don't focus so much about being right or dunking on someone or shaming someone. Let's try to get to shared understandings and meanings of things. So, Grace, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. Where can the people find you online?
Oh my goodness. You can find me on Instagram under Grace Nick. My artist name is Grace Nicole, so it's GraceNicc. And on Twitter, I'm here and there on Twitter, Grace with 2 A's and Nicole.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining in today. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye.